राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे। जय श्री राधे गोविंदा, राधे गोविंदा, राधे गोविंदा। जय श्री राधे गोविंदा, जय श्री गौरानीताई, गौरानीताई, गौरानीताई। जय श्री गौरानीताई, जय श्रीला प्रभुपादा, प्रभुपादा, प्रभुपादा। जय श्रीला प्रभुपादा। हरि बोल।
Thank you, Akshita Mataji. So nice Kirtan. Karthik Prabhu, thank you so much for your nice slideshow. Okay, Hare Krishna everyone. Welcome.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Welcome.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Welcome to Understand Gita in 18 Days by ISKCON Mangaluru. So we will start the discussion on chapter 3 today. Om Agyan Timirandasya Gyananjan Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamahiyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Hey Krishna Karna Sindhu Dinbandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kantha Radha Kantha Namastute. Tapta Kanchan Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishbhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priyai. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advait Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakti Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So Chapter 2 was a discussion. What is the name of chapter 2? I asked this question. Yes, what is the name of chapter 2? Chapter 2 Bhagavad Gita, the name.
Krishna defeats Arjuna's argument.
Summary of Bhagavad Gita.
Sankhya Yoga. Sankhya
Bhagavad
Yoga.
Gita summarized.
Contents of Bhagavad Gita summarized or in Baldev Vidyabhushan Prabhupada's translation. This is also called Sankhya Yoga. Yes. But
Sankhya
in Prabhupada named this chapter as Contents of Bhagavad Gita summarized.
Gyan Yoga.
Sankhya Yoga or Contents of Bhagavad Gita summarized. The Saransh. Thank you. What is the name of chapter 1?
Observing the army in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Observing the army in the battlefield of Kurukshetra.
Baldev Vidyabhushan's book and observing the armies on the battlefield by Prabhupada. Chapter 3 is called Karma Yoga or Yoga of Action. Let's pay our obeisances to Shri Shri Radha Govinda before we proceed. This is what we did yesterday. Krishna's Arjun gave reasons to Krishna that I'm not going to fight, and Krishna addressed each one of them. Arjun said in first chapter, compassion. My family is the object of my compassion, and Krishna gave him the knowledge of the soul, Gyan Yoga. That you're directing your compassion to the body, but it is to be directed to the soul. Then Arjun said there'll be no enjoyment, and Krishna said there is going to be an enjoyment. Either you lose the war or win the war, in these verses 31 to 37. Then Arjun said fear of sinful activities, that we should be fearful because we are going to commit sinful activity by fighting. And Krishna said in devotional service there is no sin. Buddhi Yoga. Buddhi Yoga is also called Bhakti Yoga. In 2.3 from 2.33 and 38 to 53rd verse. Then Arjun said, I'm undecided. I know I'm supposed to fight. This was in 2.6. And Krishna said, you're undecided because your intelligence is chopped off in many directions. So become Vyavasatmika Buddhi. Then Arjuna asked, how is that person? What are the symptoms of that person who is Vyavasatmika Buddhi? Whose consciousness is merged in transcendence? How does that person talk? What is his language? That person walk and that person sit. So Krishna answered those questions from 2.54 to 2.72. And then destruction of the dynasty was the final reason that Arjun gave to Krishna, that I'm not going to fight. And Krishna is going to address that answer today. This is a summary of third chapter, Karma Yoga. So Arjun is going to ask a question to Krishna in the beginning of the chapter. This is how most of the chapters of Bhagavad Gita are, that Arjun asks questions and Krishna answers them. This is how Bhagavad Gita flows. So over here, the question that Arjun is going to ask is, I'm confused by your equivocal instructions. Should I renounce work or should I work? So renunciation or action. And then we will discuss how or what makes Arjun confused. Then Krishna talks about Nishkam Karma Yoga being superior to Jnana Yoga. And then he talks about Karma Kand to Karma Yoga, and then lead by example and greatest enemy, which is the lust. So I will bring this, I will bring this slide again at the end. So you'll have a better understanding of what is happening. So this is just a flow of connection between chapter 1, 2, and 3. So chapter 1, Arjun observed the armies. Then he became bewildered. And then he gave reasons to Krishna that he's not going to fight. These are the 4 reasons that Arjun gives to Krishna in the first chapter: compassion, enjoyment, destruction of family, and fear of sinful activities. And then in second chapter, verse 6, he gives final 5th reason that he's not going to fight, which is indecision. And then he surrenders to Krishna, right? 2.7, he says that I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Now please instruct me. So he surrenders and accepts Krishna as a spiritual master. Then Krishna starts instructing Arjun about whether to fight or not. He addresses all these things, all these questions, queries by Arjun. And because he gave so many different instructions, now Arjun is a little bit confused. And first is that whether he should renounce work or whether he should work. And how did he get there? We'll talk about it, that how did Arjun get confused in the first place. So when we look at a signboard like this, or a signage like this on the road, the other way, that way, this way, what does it, what thought it brings in your mind? What is it? What question it incites within you? Look at a
Confusion.
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 Confused.
come on, yes, confusion. What to do? Very nice, thank you. So that what to do, whether I should go this way, that way, or the other way. So that's what is happening to Arjun. So Arjun heard so many things from Krishna, that he heard the knowledge about the soul being superior most. But then he also heard that in Bhakti Yoga or Buddhi Yoga, there is no sin. So he should work. But then if I have to cultivate knowledge, that he thinks knowledge means inertia, means I just have to sit and gather knowledge and not really work. Okay, so I think I'll go ahead. Tadaikam vada. So Krishna gives him the knowledge of the soul in 2nd chapter from verse 11 to 30. As an answer to what argument by Arjun? Krishna gives knowledge about the soul as an answer to what argument by Arjun? What was the argument?
Compassion.
Compassion. Everyone is awake. Compassion. Very nice. So compassion, right? So he says that you're directing your compassion to the body, but actually the soul is the one which is the most compassionate. And the soul is never killed, right? Nanam chiddanti shastrani nanam dahati pavakaha na chenam kledyanti apo na shoshyati marutaha. So never killed by any kind of a weapon. So cultivate the knowledge about the soul. So Arjun thinks knowledge means inertia or no activity. But then Krishna in the same chapter from verse 38 to 53 also tells Arjun that fight, because in executing the Bhakti Yoga or Buddhi Yoga, there is no sin. This fight is not going to generate any sinful reaction because it's Bhakti Yoga. I am telling you to do it. So he's confused whether he should sit and cultivate knowledge or whether he should get up and fight. What should he do? Work or renounce work? Is that clear? Is this clear? Before we actually go into the chapter, if it is not clear to someone can raise their hand at this point and ask again. And if it is clear, then I will go ahead. So this is the first verse. Arjuna vacha jayasi chat karmanaste mata buddhe janardhana tat kim karmani ghore mam niyojayasi Keshava. Arjun said, "O Janardhan, O Keshav, why do you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare if you think that intelligence is better than fruitive work?" Right? He's actually, Krishna says, Prabhupada writes in the purport to first verse that Arjun is not bewildered, but sometimes we want to procrastinate a work. We don't want to do the work. So we find out the reason, this and that and that. So, but Arjun is kind of doing that. But because Arjun is doing that, Krishna will speak more and our understanding will increase more. So he's addressing Krishna by two names here, Janardhan and Keshav. Janardhan means the benefactor of the living entities, the one who maintains all the living entities. And Keshav means the one who killed the demon Keshi. Keshav also means the one who has curly hair, curly black hair. So Krishna has curly black hair and he also killed a demon called Keshi. So he's addressing Krishna as Keshava because he requests Krishna that as you kill the demon Keshi, so similarly kill the demon of doubts within me. And O Janardhan means you are the benefactor of all living entities. So please take care of me also. And then he's putting his question that why do you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare? So he still thinks that warfare is ghastly. If you think that intelligence is better than fruitive work. So he's thinking that cultivation of knowledge about the soul is superior than working in Krishna consciousness. Okay, and then he says this. Vyami shreneva vakyena buddhi mohya shiva me tadekam vada nishchitya yena kshrayo aham apnuyam. My intelligence is bewildered by your equivocal instructions. Therefore, please tell me decisively which will be most beneficial for me. So he's thinking that this is an equivocal instruction. First you say that cultivate the knowledge, and then you say that work, get up and fight. So these are equivocal instructions. So he's saying, he's see how self-aware Arjun is, that he's saying that I am bewildered, and please now you decisively tell me which is most beneficial for me. So Krishna consciousness makes us very aware. I keep repeating the same thing in every chapter, but that's a fact actually. We come to know that, okay, I am actually in perplexity. In material consciousness, what happens when we are not in Krishna consciousness, or when we don't know there is something superior, spirit or soul, which is more important than my present condition of body or mind or intelligence, then what happens is that we think that we can solve our problems. We think that I can, by somehow or other, by carrying on the fight with the life, I can go on, I can survive, and I can succeed. But a person in Krishna consciousness actually comes to know that it's not possible. Without cultivating Krishna consciousness, whatever I do is going to be very short-lived, and finally it is not going to be of any benefit, because I'm going to die. Right? It's just a matter of time which separates me from my death. So I need to know which is most beneficial for me. Why am I being given this duration of life? What is the real purpose? Is the purpose is eat, sleep, mate, and defend. These are the 4 things that animals do as well. Okay, so when we see this picture, now Krishna is going to talk about that both are actually good. Cultivating knowledge and then working in Krishna consciousness, both are good. But of the 2, working is better. That's what he's going to establish. So when we see a picture like this, with due respect to this person, but just for our understanding, okay, not fault finding, but for our understanding, what seems to be off in this photograph? What seems to be off? What's happening? This person looks like a saintly person.
He's smoking.
He's on the phone.
Smoking and phone.
And that he is having a
Okay, smoking. So yes, so this is an unwanted habit. That if I am really saintly, that why do I need to depend on smoking cigarette? You see, and the packet itself says smoking is injurious to health. Then why am I damaging my health? Because Krishna says that one should uplift them with their mind and not degrade them. So Krishna says this, Karmendriyani samyamya ye aste manasa smaran indriyarthan vimudhatma mithyachara sa uchyate. One who restrains the senses of action but whose mind dwells on sense objects certainly deludes himself and is called a pretender. Mithya achara. Mithya means false. Achara means behavior. Sa uchyate. That behavior is called false behavior. So basically Arjun doesn't want to fight, right? That's what the scenario is. So he's asking this question, that question, so that Krishna agrees that yes, you don't have to fight. But Krishna is now gonna say something to please Arjun. Krishna is going to state the facts. So he says, okay, the thing is that one can sit in the meditation. That's fine. You can, sit in the meditation and cultivate the knowledge by not actually working with the body and the senses. You can sit down. But what are you going to do about your mind? Right? The mind will still hanker. Even if you go to forest and you say, okay, I'm not going to see anyone. There will be no kingdom. There will be no enmity. I'm going to be all by myself. And then I'm going to be all good. There will be no sinful activity. Okay, you could do that. But then what are you going to do about the mind? The mind will still hanker. Right? Where is my family? Or where is my kingdom? Because you're Kshatriya. Like us, we can also adopt the same thing in our life. That I can be restrained from sense objects. But I cannot forget it. Because the mind will dwell. Srila Prabhupada gives one example. He gives an example of a sick patient in the hospital. Okay, so a person is admitted to a hospital and sometimes they are refrained from eating anything. Right? They're saying, okay, you don't have to eat anything. You have to fast because of the sickness. So the person... and then what happens that during their course of admission to the hospital, Ekadashi comes. So on Ekadashi, we don't eat food, grains voluntarily. Now, this patient who's hospitalized is also not eating grains on the Ekadashi day, right? Because of the sickness. But does that really mean that he's keeping Ekadashi? Does that really mean that they're keeping Ekadashi? Because the mind is hankering, when will I eat this? When will I eat that? When will I eat that? So that's not going to work. Okay, so that's mithyachar. So that's false behavior or a pretender. Okay, so take care of the mind. That really the mind has to become free from the hankerings. The body and the senses will automatically be controlled if the mind has found a superior engagement. So that's what Krishna is saying, that you can say renounce work is superior to working. That's fine. But then what are you going to do about your mind? One who restrains the senses of action, but whose mind dwells on sense objects, certainly deludes himself and is called a pretender. So Krishna doesn't want us to be a pretender. He wants honesty. Okay, some people take to spirituality. Now, this is very interesting. Some people take to spirituality because they get frustrated, right? This is a very common household thing in house to house, that if somebody gets and says in frustration, oh, I'm going to leave you guys and I'm going to go live in a jungle. You see, have you heard of that? I have heard of that a lot of times. Have you heard of that? That there is a fight in the house.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
2 to 3 times.
So 2 to 3 times every day. So he says, I am frustrated with all of you. With you guys don't pay any respect or heed to me. I am going to the jungle. I'm going to the forest. So that renunciation is pretentious. That renunciation is not true renunciation. Okay, so Krishna doesn't want us to pretend to renounce because of frustration. He does not renounce. He does not want us to renounce because of fear of material life. Also, some people want to renounce the material life because it is very painful. It's very painful to live in a material way. So they say, okay, better to become a Babaji. Or some people renounce material life. Vita, Raga, Bhaya, and Krodha. Anger we covered. Then we covered the fear. And Raga means attachment. So they renounce. They want to renounce the material life, but then there is so much attachment. You see, Prabhupada gives example of a crorepati, of a very rich person. And then that person, when they grow very old, then they want to renounce. And then they want to come and live in the holy places. So, okay. And then they come. This is funny. They come. Prabhupada said they come to live in the holy places. But then when you ask them, okay, you earned so much in your life. What did you bring for Krishna? Oh, that I left for my family members. I became a pauper and came to Krishna. Why? Because of attachment. So that kind of a renunciation also Krishna does not want. So it's very deep. Krishna consciousness is deep. So Krishna doesn't want us to be a pretender. Okay, so he's answering Arjun that you see both are okay, but what are you going to do with your silly mind? On the other hand, if a sincere person tries to control the active senses by the mind and begins karma yoga in Krishna consciousness without attachment, he's by far superior. So a person who's actually working for Krishna without expecting any result is by far superior than a person who's sitting in the forest and just meditating. But then the mind is dwelling on the sense objects. So this is King Pratap Rudra. The King Pratap Rudra's pastime comes in Chaitanya Chaitamrita. King Pratap Rudra was a king of Odisha, but he was also a very exalted devotee of Lord Jagannath. And he wanted to take darshan of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he sent a word that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I would like to take your darshan. May I please come? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sent a word back, no. I'm a sannyasi and you are a king and you deal with material objects. So I cannot look at you because my sannyas will become contaminated. So he became a little bit upset that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said no. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's associates told him that during Jagannath Rath Yatra, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will come out and then you can take his darshan from far away. And he was a king of Odisha, right? So he used to arrange the Yatra. But he was also a very humble devotee and he used to take up the service of brooming the floor before Jagannath comes forward. And he was really doing it. He wasn't doing it to show anyone. And his heart was merged in Krishna consciousness. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw that, and he actually appreciated King Pratap Rudra. So this is what it takes to become Krishna conscious, that I am aware that I am advancing here and then I'm lacking here. Not like that, okay, I am chanting Hare Krishna, so now I have become completely purified, and now I have no attachments, no fears, and no anger. No. Everything is there. So work done. Now Krishna is going to teach us. So far he established that both are okay, but then working is better, because by working without attachment that's what he's saying, right? Karma Yoga definition tries to control the active senses by the mind and begins Karma Yoga without attachment. So a person does the activity but is not attached to the result of activity. The devotee is working so that Krishna can enjoy. Like a mother works in the house so that the family can enjoy, right? So the children can be taken care of. She cooks even in the hot weather so that the family can eat. Children can eat, they get nourished. So she's not attached to getting appreciated. If we appreciate, then we get credit. But then she's not. The Prabhupada gives this example in 2nd chapter, verse 14, of a mother cooking in the hot weather. But she still continues to work because of a duty. That's a duty. So now Krishna is going to teach us that how to work. First, he established between work and renunciation, and now he's going to teach us how to work so that we get free from these hankerings. He says in 3.9, work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work causes bondage in this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction, and in that way you will always remain free from bondage. So this is a secret, right? Work in such a way that we don't get bonded. And what is the bondage? Bondage is that I don't get another material body. Otherwise, whatever work we do for our satisfaction, we are making on the next life. We are constructing our next life. But Krishna is saying to stop this cycle of birth and death, work for me. But what is happening here? This is from 7th canto Srimad Bhagavatam. So when Maharaj Yudhishthira was enthroned after the war, he was taking instructions from Narad Muni as to how to rule in such a manner that his ruling can be pleasing to Krishna. This is a leader, right? This is going to be the leader of the whole world, and he's getting instructions from Narad Muni that how should I rule that Krishna gets pleased by my ruling. And Narad Muni gives him instructions after instructions on all the intricate matters, which are all stated in 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So now we'll see that how we can work in such a way that Krishna is satisfied. Prabhupada gives one example explaining this. He gives an example of a soldier fighting on the war field on behalf of the country. Okay, so the soldier is on duty and fighting on the war field on behalf of the country, and that soldier kills the opposite party. And when that soldier comes back to the country gives him award or reward or appreciates that you killed so many of the opposing army people to win the war. Okay, but now this person knows how to kill. So when this soldier is not on duty, okay, and then now this person kills someone for his own satisfaction or her own satisfaction, the government now punishes. Same activity of killing, one is actually giving that person appreciation, and then the other activity is actually giving him punishment. How come? What is the difference? The difference is that in first scenario, he was fighting on behalf of the country, so it was not causing him any bondage. But in the second scenario, he was killing for his own satisfaction. So that's what Krishna says, that do work on behalf of Krishna, or work should be done as a sacrifice for Vishnu. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work causes bondage in this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duty for his satisfaction. In that way, you will always remain free from bondage. So this is the cycle of sacrifice or example of such a work done for Krishna's satisfaction. explained in chapter 3 by Krishna. Krishna says that all living entities subsist on grains. Like we are all subsisting on grain. If we don't get grain, we cannot eat Goodyear tire. Can you, if you don't get grain, can you eat the tire and paper and survive? Yes?
No.
No.
We need grain. Arrangement is such. So Krishna says, from me comes the Vedas, or Vedas, a book of knowledge, which and in that book of knowledge is given the intricacies of prescribed duty. So what should be done and what should not be done. Where do we refer? We refer to the book of knowledge, which are called Veda, which are coming from Krishna. And one who follows the Vedas and does their duty is doing the prescribed duty. So it's prescribed. For example, growing the grain. So growing the grain is a prescribed duty. And when one does the prescribed duty, one is actually doing a sacrifice. Do it with a consciousness that I'm doing it for Krishna, because Krishna has said that and I will offer it to Krishna. So that activity itself becomes a sacrifice. From the sacrifice comes the rain, and the rain produces the grain. Now, when the grain is produced, instead of claiming the proprietorship that, oh, because I did the work and I got the grain, no. Whatever food we prepare from the grain, rather than eating first by myself, I should offer it back to Krishna. Okay, so complete the cycle. First is, where do I know what I should do and what I should not do? Vedas, and Vedas are coming from Krishna. And in this, Krishna has given an example of growing the food grain, which is a prescribed duty. So because this is a prescribed duty and I'm doing it according to the injunction of the Shastras, this is automatically a sacrifice. And from sacrifice comes the rain. From rain comes the grain. Now, when the grain is produced, instead of eating it directly, offer it back to Krishna and then take the food. So this way, the person is not bonded. This is what it is. By performance of yagyas, all activities become purified, as it is stated in the Vedas. Ahar shuddho sattva shuddhi, sattva shuddho dhruva smriti, smriti labhe sarva granthi nam vipra mokshaha. What does it mean? By performance of yagya, one's eatables become sanctified. Okay, so that eatable which is offered to Krishna is sanctified. And by eating sanctified foodstuff, one's very existence become purified. By purification of existence, finer tissues in the memory become sanctified. And when the memory is sanctified, one can think of the path of liberation. And all these combined together lead to Krishna consciousness, the great necessity of present civilization. So if I eat a food grain which is offered to Krishna, this is Krishna talking in Bhagavad Gita, not me, then that food is sanctified, is freed. Is Krishna says, I release from all the sins. There are so many sins involved in cooking food. There is so much sin. The minute we turn on the gas, so many living entities die. The minute we turn on the water to wash the vegetables, so many living entities die. And then the cooking itself is a process in which we are killing. We may not know, but it is happening. But if that food is offered to Krishna, that food becomes sanctified. And when we eat such a food, our finer tissues of memory become sanctified. Actually, this is a known fact. People who are in Krishna consciousness or spirituality, they have a very fine memory, right? People in the bygone ages, they didn't need books or anything. They just will hear once from their spiritual master and they will remember. They had very fine memory. We keep on reading the verses after verses after verses and still we don't remember. Why? Because our memory is not sanctified. Because we're not eating sanctified food, right? Do you agree with me that people who were leading a very simple life, Krishna conscious life, have very sharp memory?
Yes.
So how come they have so much sharp memory? The sharp memory is because of eating the food stuff which is sanctified. And then when the memory is sanctified, then only one can think of the path of liberation or Krishna consciousness. People don't think about Krishna consciousness because they don't see it as a need, because their existence is not purified. So the devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment verily eat only sin. So morsel after morsel, they only eat sin. This is Krishna saying that if I eat a food which is offered to Krishna, then I am released from all kinds of sins. So this all kinds of sins is described. There are just details attached to this line in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, there are 4 kinds of sinful activities that each living entity has to go through. Some of them are not mature, and we don't know when they'll become mature, but they're there. They may mature in next life or next to next life or next to next life. We don't know, but they're there. Okay, so there are some sinful activities which are not matured, and that's called aprarabdha. Then some of them which will mature maybe at the end of this life or maybe early next life or next life, but then they will mature. So that's another sinful activity, and that's called as bijam. And some sinful activities are the activities, reactions are the reactions which are going to show their effect in this life. May not be showing right now, but will show at some point in this life. You know, somebody who suddenly meets with some calamity in their life. Everything was going fine. And then suddenly something happened. Suddenly there's an accident. Suddenly there's a loss. Suddenly there's something. So that's called bijam. And then some sinful activities are already manifesting. Some sinful reactions are already manifesting. Like somebody is born with a disease. What are you going to do? Like the child is just born, but they're born like that. Or somebody is already facing some calamity. That's mature sinful reaction, and that's called prarabdha. So all these kind of sinful activities can be removed if we offer the food to Krishna and eat that. Material life is very entangling, which our Shastras explain to us. But if someone doesn't do that, then they only eat sin. And only eat for personal sense enjoyment, and they only eat sin. So many big restaurants, big food shows, or big cookbooks and big things, they don't talk about offering food to Krishna. So we are actually getting more and more implicated just by eating. All living bodies subsist on food grains which are produced from rains. Rains are produced by performance of yagya or sacrifice. Yagya is born out of prescribed duty. So that's what I described in the cycle of sacrifice. So what is the yagya that is prescribed for this particular age? Yagne sankirtane prayer yajanti hi sumedashaha. Srimad Bhagavatam 11 canto 5th chapter verse 32. That the yagya which is prescribed for the age of Kali Yuga for self-realization is chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Sankirtan. And one who does that is called Sumedashaha. Medha means good brain. Sumedha means very good brain. So that person has a very good brain, one who is actually taking to this path of self-realization in the age of Kali. Vyasdev is writing it. And then what is that Sankirtan Yagya? What is it about? Chanting this. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advait Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. You can all say with me Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare. Simple. Thank you very much. So simple. Okay. Where does it say in Bhagavad Gita? 10.25, 10 chapter verse 25. Yajinam Japo Yagno Asmi. He says, out of all the sacrifices, I am the chanting of the holy name. And again, the same thing. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advait Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakti Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Therefore, without being attached to the fruits of activities, one should act as a matter of duty. For by working without attachment, one attains the supreme. So there are certain rules in communication. Okay, these are not accidents that Krishna is using such words. He's saying should word here, right? Should means that it's not negotiable. There is no alternative. If there was an alternative, then the word will sound like this. One must consider, or one can consider to act as a matter of duty. But he's not writing that. He's writing one should act as a matter of duty. So this is a necessity that it should be done. And how it should be done? That work without attachment to the fruits of activities. As a matter of pleasing Krishna. Now that work has to be taught. We don't know how to work like that because the civilization we live in teaches us how to work for our sense enjoyment, right? This is how the promotions and the hierarchy at the social ladder is made, that you work, then you get promoted, then you get more salary, and then you enjoy more because you're getting more salary. So that means with attachment to the fruit of activity. So we don't know how to work without aiming for the fruit of activity. And that training is given by the spiritual master. How should we work in that manner? This is a principle. This is the instruction and principle. But the details behind the principles are explained by Guru Sadhu Shastra. And why should he work? Because why should Arjun work? Now he gives this second reason. First reason he gave is that what are you going to do about your mind? You may go to the forest and not fight the war and do this and do that. But what are you going to do with the mind? The mind will still hanker. So don't be a pretender. Then Krishna says that work, but work without attachment. Do fight because it's your duty to fight. You're Kshatriya. And now Krishna is going to give him another reason why he should fight, or why we should cultivate Krishna consciousness. Yadi yad acharati shreshthas tat tad evataro janaha so yad pramanam kurute lokas tat anuvartate. Whatever action is performed by a great man, common men follow in his footsteps. And whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. Okay, so he's saying, Arjun, you should work because you are a leader. And if you, whatever action you're going to do, whatever example you're going to set, the common person is going to follow that. We do that. We all do that, right? In from a very young age, we do that. So sometimes when we see, ask a small child that why did you do this? Why did you do this activity? Why did you eat this particular food with in this particular way? Why were you not eating properly? Sometimes children answer, oh, because my grandma eats like that, because my grandfather eats like that. So you can't even answer them back, right? Or if we say, okay, why did you do this particular activity like this? Oh, because my dad does like this, my mom like this, does like this. So we are actually following the leader. Do you have an experience of something like that?
Yes.
Yes.
And then we put the burden of our activity, a reason, to somebody superior in the family, right? So it is happening even in one's household. So what is going to happen in the society and nation and country and world also? So whatever example our leader is going to set, common person will follow. So he's saying that, okay, whatever you're going to set by your act, whatever example, the whole world will pursue. So if you are going to not fight and you're going to run away, then you're actually setting an example that if somebody gets bewildered in their activity, in their life as to what to do and what not to do, just run away from everything. Is that what you want to do? Is that what everyone, that's how you will be looked upon. And that's what other people are going to do. So and we are mini leaders somewhere or the other, right? At least in our own house, we can see that small children learn more by the activities of elders, not so much by their instructions and words to them. So one has to cultivate this knowledge for their own sake, so that we do what is completely right. And then he says that actually Krishna himself says that I am also working, right? He is also working just because to set an exemplary example for the people to follow. If I did not work, if I did not perform prescribed duties, all these worlds would be put to ruination. I would be the cause of creating unwanted population, and I would thereby destroy the peace of all living beings. Please understand the flow. So he is himself giving his example. Krishna is giving his example, and I'm working. Like holding Govardhan hill on his small finger of the left hand for 7 days is a work. Why is Krishna working? Because he wants other to follow his example. He's going and herding the 9 lakh cows of his father, Nand Maharaj. Right? Why is he doing it? He's a Supreme Personality of Godhead, because he's setting an example of how a Vaishya should live. So he's telling Arjun that it is not by renouncing work, but it is by working that you will prevent the destruction of family dynasty. If you don't work, if you don't address what your perplexities, then you will be responsible for destroying the family dynasty, not the other way. So as not to disturb the minds of ignorant men attached to fruitive results of prescribed duties, a learned man should not induce them to stop work. Rather, by working in the spirit of devotion, he should engage them in all sorts of activities for the gradual development of Krishna consciousness. So this is a very nice verse. Krishna is addressing the other part of the argument. One thing he's saying very clearly, that work, because by working, you're going to set an exemplary example for others to follow. If you don't do that, if you don't work, then you will be responsible for producing unwanted population. But then when we work, then there are going to be some people who are going to be attached to the fruitive results of prescribed duty. Like 90% or 99% of the people are like that. I want to work so that I can get a benefit from my work and I can enjoy my life. There is no Krishna. So what should we do? Because Krishna wants everyone. You see, Krishna's heart is that he wants everyone. Prabhupada says that Krishna sends his order carriers, all the acharyas. You see, order carriers, the order carriers of Krishna to all the universes, to all the worlds. Krishna sends his order carriers, and where does he send them? Where does he send them? Prabhupada says, because such order, he tells them, go and see if somebody is chanting the names of Narayana, and who is interested in coming to me. Go bring that person back to me who's chanting my name. So they come. You see, the acharyas come. So Krishna's heart is not to find fault and sidetrack anyone. If somebody is still attached to the results of their activities, Krishna is saying that we should not induce them to stop work. Now, I will explain this painting. Let's say this person who's tilling the field, okay, the farmer. Or let's say this person who is a coconut vendor going on the top of a coconut tree to get the coconut. They are working. Okay, but they are working with the consciousness that this person, farmer, is thinking that I'm going to get good grain, and then I will sell the grain, and then I will get so much money, and then I will do so many things with the money. So no Krishna, right? The attached to the fruitive result. Or this coconut vendor is thinking it's so hot, I'm going to sell this coconut water, and then I will make so much money. Everyone will come and drink this, and then I will do this, I will do that with this money. So again, attached to the fruitive results. So a saintly person comes in their life and sees them doing like this. So what will the saintly person do? Will the saintly person say, oh, you're so attached to your fruitive results of activity, don't work. This is sinful. You know, it is sinful to work when you're thinking what you're going to do with your money and not actually interested in doing Krishna conscious activity. Don't work. Is that how a sinful saintly person act in their situation? And Krishna says, no. Krishna says, do not induce them to stop the work. Let them work. But teach them that how can they work in a spirit of Krishna consciousness. For example, this person who's tilling the grain, the field to get the grain. Okay, that person, you go to them, you say, okay, very nice that you are working so hard to till the field to get good grains. And you're thinking that you're going to do this or that with the money that you will get from the market. But you will also eat, right? You will also eat. Asatani, you're going to get just money and you're going to chew on the money. And that's your food. You will also eat the grain. So when you eat the grain that you're growing, before eating, do you think you can offer a little bit to Krishna? Do you think you can do that? So little bit. So in that spirit of devotion, and the person will say, yes, I can do that. That's not difficult. Or the same thing with this coconut person. You are working so hard in the hot weather, going up the coconut tree, which is so rough and so big, so tall. So you're selling this coconut water to others, but you will also feel hot. You will also drink. Before you drink, can you offer to Krishna? That's all. So don't induce them to stop work, but rather by working in the spirit of devotion, he should engage them in all sorts of activities for gradual development of Krishna consciousness. But we don't do that. So Krishna says that we don't do that. It's very difficult for a conditioned soul to work in that consciousness. Why? Ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. That's what it is. The spirit soul, bewildered by influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by the three modes of material nature. So a person who's doing the activity, you go to a person who's very rich businessman and say that Krishna is so kind, Krishna has given you so much, why don't you give something for Krishna's service? The person will say, where is Krishna? I worked for whatever I got, right? This is how they talk, or this is how most of us talk, right? I worked. Where is God? I had to work so much to get what I have today, right?
Yes.
Yes,
Are you all awake?
Yes.
Right, Krishna.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So what makes us do that? Because let's say somebody is growing a mango tree in their land. So did the person make the mango seed? Did the person make the mango seed? Did they make the mango seed? Tell me. They're growing the mango tree, but did they make the mango seed?
No.
No.
Okay, did they make the field, the land where they're going to
No.
sow the,
Not at all.
did they make their own hand? Hands
No.
twisted.
No.
Or did they make their own intelligence? Or did they make the sunlight? Did they make the sunlight?
Nothing left.
In the chat, there's some background noise. Did they make the sunlight? No. Did they make the rainwater? No. Then when this thing comes out, the mango tree comes out, then how can I say that I am the only doer? I am the one who actually did everything. No, that's not correct. So then who is the real doer? The real doer is the modes of material nature, which we'll talk about in further chapters. So that is a blocker in one going and working for Krishna, because a person thinks that why should I work for Krishna? I am the one who's working. So Arjun asked this question, that what makes a person think like this? And what makes a person to do something which against the shastras, against the prescribed duties, even though they may not want to. Sometimes we don't want to do something which is wrong, but we are impelled to do it. What makes a person do like that? So Arjun asked this question, O descendant of Vrishni, by what one is impelled to sinful acts, even unwillingly, as if engaged by force, as if, forcing, and I don't want to, but I'll still do. So Krishna answers, Arjun uses these words in 36 words, Anicham and Balad. Anicham means without desiring or not willing, and Balad means but with very forceful. Even though I don't want to, but very forcefully made to work in such a way that I don't want to. And Krishna answers this. Dhumena vriyate vahanir yatharja shomalena cha yathol benavrato garbhas tathati nidam avritam. So Krishna says it's lust only, Arjun. It's lust only which makes one person act in a contrary manner to their desire. And lust, we discussed yesterday. What is lust? Like Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Prabhupada describes in Chaitanya Charitamrita, lust is any activity which I do for my own sankarification. No Krishna, just my own. I should be the one. If I go and buy the most expensive car out there, not so much though I can visit the pilgrimage or I can go to temple, but so much that I can just have it for my own sake. That's lust also. Okay, so, and Krishna describes different degrees of lust. There are different colors of lust. So he's given an example of a fire covered by smoke, or a dust, or a mirror which is covered by dust, or an embryo which is covered in the womb. So as fire is covered by smoke, mirror is covered by dust, or embryo is covered by womb. Similarly, the living entity is covered by different degrees of lust. So fire covered by smoke is compared to the human life. There is smoke, but then if we can somehow get rid of the smoke, the fire of Krishna consciousness can be kindled. That's human life. There is a chance for this smoke of lust to be driven away by activities and Krishna consciousness to be rekindled in the heart. And then this mirror covered by dust. So if you have an experience of a mirror in your storehouse, a very old mirror covered by dust, you try to clean it, it will not go. It will take a lot of efforts to clean it. That life is compared to the animal life. Or there's another analogy given that our heart is like that our heart is now covered by different material desires. So Cheto Darpana Marjanam. So when we chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, the first thing that happens is that the mirror of the heart becomes cleansed. Okay, and then the embryo covered by the womb is compared to the plant life. Very, very thick. If you tell a tree, chant Hare Krishna, they can't, right? Because they can't even move from their place for hundreds of years. so very, very thickly covered by their conditioning in the material life. Like the fetus inside the womb is helpless, they can't come out. This is the only range of freedom that they have. So these are the different degrees of lust. This is the question in your quiz also. As fire is covered by smoke, which is compared to the human form of life. Mirror is covered by dust, which is compared to the animal life. Or the embryo is covered by womb, which is compared to the plant life. The living entity is similarly covered by different degrees of this lust. Therefore, O Arjun, best of Bharatas, in the very beginning curb this symbol of lust or sin by regulating the senses and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. So I usually ask this question in this verse that Krishna is saying, okay, in the very beginning, curb this great symbol of lust. So what is this beginning? Very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin. And how do we do that? By regulating the senses and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. What is this beginning? Very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin. We discussed it yesterday. I'm giving you a hint. Yes, what is this very beginning? Anybody? Nobody? Somebody? Even the co-host? Therefore, in the beginning, curb this symbol of lust. Am I audible? Rupa Mataji, am I audible?
Yes, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
Okay. Oh, somebody's writing beginning of war. Nice attempt. Thank you for the answer, but that's not correct. So
Beginning
what is this
beginning when you are getting the thought of attracting to some material thing, at that time itself you think about Krishna and offer it to Krishna. Try to
perfect. So dhyate vishyan punsaha sangasya sanjayate. Remember we studied it yesterday that the dhyate vishyan punsaha. Beginning means dhyate. As soon as the thought comes that I'm going to enjoy this, that is the beginning. So very beginning, that it's entering into the consciousness because I have the desire. So in the very beginning, that particular moment, curb it. Don't try to sit on it. Okay, so 1 second. So this is a little bit of an analogy given. So mind is between senses and intelligence. So we have the mind, but superior than the mind are the senses. I'm sorry, I apologize. We have a body, but superior than the body are senses. If I have a body and the body has eyes and I can't use the eyes, or I can't use my hands, or I can't use my ears, then having that is not so much. It's not so much fulfilling as the working senses in the body. That way, senses are superior to the dull matter, but mind is even higher than the senses, and intelligence is even higher than the mind, but highest is the soul. So. So Indriyani parani ahur, Indrahi param manaha. Manastu para buddhir, yo buddhi parastu saha. The working senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than the senses. Intelligence is still higher than the mind. And the soul, is even greater than the intelligence. So I will explain this. Somebody on the bodily platform, their arena of intelligence or enjoyment is eat, drink, and be merry. Namanisha Prabhu explains this very nicely. I'm going to use his example. So let's say that he gives example of a person who goes out in their lunch break in the office and then who sees two shops in the middle of the day, juice shop and a bar where the liquor is sold. Okay, so that person in the middle of the day goes and sees two shops side to side, juice and bar. They want to go to the bar, but they are able to control themselves because it's the middle of the day and they need to get back to the work. So they enter the juice. But a person on the bodily platform will go to the bar even in the middle of the day because that's what the aim of life is. Okay, so that's bodily platform that just enjoy anytime. But person on the sensual platform also wants to go to the bar, but is able to control going there and goes to the juice because they know that senses are higher. Unless and until I earn money, how can I afford a very nice wine on Friday night? So I need to work. I'm not going to go to any cheap bar. Okay. But the person who is on the mental platform, which will actually start thinking that really, is that what enjoyment is? Like really such low grade intelligence, such low, there's got to be something higher. Because when I go to enjoy and indulge in intoxication, I actually lose myself. I lose my balance. So there's got to be something higher. So that person is hovering on the mental platform. Such person is attached to reading philosophical books or singing classical music or something. Okay, so they're trying to find out something higher. But then a more intelligent person will be on the platform of intelligence. They will use the intelligence to find out, am I the body? Am I the senses? Or am I the mind? They don't know what they are, but then they have these questions that my mind tells me do this, do that, but it still is not giving me satisfaction. So there's got to be something higher. Maybe I am the soul. Maybe. Then the person on the spiritual platform is fully realized that I'm actually not the body. I'm actually not the senses. I'm actually not the mind. I'm actually not the intelligence. I'm a spirit soul, part and parcel of Krishna, and that's my responsibility. That's my identity. So that way, the working senses are superior to the dull matter. Mind is higher than the senses. The intelligence is even higher than the mind. But he, the soul, is even higher than the intelligence. That's the verse. Okay. So this is the diagram which compares these horses which are going haywire are compared to the 5 knowledge acquiring senses. We acquire knowledge by our eyes, by our nose, by hearing, by touching, and by tasting. And this bridle, which is supposed to control the horses, is compared to the uncontrolled mind. And the driver is compared to the intelligence. And the passenger is who's watching this whole drama is compared to the soul or self. Okay. So this is what we discussed today. Renunciation or action. You see, Arjun begins the chapter by asking Krishna, what should I do? Tell me one thing. You're giving me equivocal instruction. Should I renounce or should I work? So should I just cultivate the knowledge of the soul or should I work in Buddhi Yoga? Tadekam vada. Krishna, tell me one thing. So Krishna explains that Nishkam Karma Yoga is superior to Jnana Yoga. Cultivation of knowledge is okay, but then what are you going to do with your mind? So that way, engage your mind and senses in activities of Krishna without being attached to the fruits of action, which is explained in verse 3 to 9 by Krishna. Niyatam Kuru Karma. And then he explains from Karma Kand to Karma Yoga. Work in such a manner that we are not getting entangled in the bondage of birth and death once again. But work, it's not that you don't work, but work in such a manner. And I gave example of Prabhupada's example of a soldier fighting on behalf of the country. The person is working. So from verse 10 to 16, Pravartim cha akram. Lead by example. And another reason Krishna gives Arjun to fight is that you are a leader of the society. So you have to lead by your example and not by your emotion or feelings so much. So verse 17 to 35, Yadyad acharati shreshtas. So whatever example you will do or whatever activities you will do, the common people will follow. Then Arjuna asked, but what is one impelled to act as if unwilling, even if unwillingly, as if engaged by force? So who's the greatest enemy of a living entity? Krishna answer is lust. And then we discuss different degrees of lust, like the mirror is covered by dust, or the embryo is covered by womb, or the fire is covered by smoke, from verse 36 to 43. Iha Verinam. Verinam means greatest enemy. Actually, we don't have any other enemy other than our own uncontrolled mind, which is a produce of lust. Okay. So let's watch one very nice video for 2 minutes.